Hey there, wherever you're tuning in from, grab a coffee or a snack because I've got a story that'll keep you hooked. Picture this, a bustling Friday night at the Ivory Loft, a fancy restaurant tucked inside the Regal Heights Hotel, the kind of place where the chandeliers sparkle like they're showing off, the wine costs more than most people's rent, and the guests expect everything to be perfect. That's where we meet Elena Torres. She's 32, a single mom with a quiet strength about her. The kind you don't notice until you see her juggling trays of gourmet dishes without breaking a sweat. She's been working here for years, serving up smiles and steak tartare to keep her 10-year-old son, Lucas, fed and happy. Life's not glamorous for Elena, but she's made it work. Her and Lucas against the world. Now, this particular night was chaos. The kitchen was slamming out orders, the bar was 3 deep with thirsty suits, and Elena was in the zone, weaving through the dining room like she owned it. Then her manager, a guy named Tony with a permanent stress crease in his forehead, pulled her aside. "Elena, I need you to handle room 408. VIP guest. Big tipper, don't mess it up." She nodded, grabbed a tray with a bottle of some overpriced red wine and a plate of seared scallops, and headed up. Room service wasn't her favorite gig. Too quiet, too personal, but she wasn't about to argue with Tony on a night like this. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt longer than usual. Maybe it was the weight of the tray or the way her feet ached after 6 hours straight, but something in her gut was buzzing. She brushed it off, chalking it up to exhaustion. When she got to room 408, she balanced the tray on one hip, knocked lightly, and called out, "Room service!" A deep voice answered, "Come in." Nothing unusual there. She pushed the door open, stepped inside, and froze. The room was dim, lit by a single lamp casting a warm glow over sleek furniture, a king bed with crisp white sheets, a desk piled with papers, and a view of the city skyline twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. Standing by that desk, loosening his tie like he'd just survived a war, was a man she hadn't seen in over a decade. Rafael Delgado. 35 years old now, taller than she remembered, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair just starting to gray at the temple. He looked every bit the polished CEO he'd become, but to Elena, he was still the college boyfriend who'd broken her heart. The guy who'd walked out when she told him she was pregnant with Lucas. The father of her kid, who'd vanished without so much as a goodbye. Her breath caught, and the tray wobbled in her hands. Raphael turned at the sound, his eyes locking on hers, and for a split second he looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Elena?" His voice was soft, almost disbelieving, like he couldn't trust his own eyes. She wanted to bolt, to drop the tray and run, but her legs wouldn't move. Years of waiting tables had taught her to keep it together, so she forced her face into a neutral mask, set the tray on the table, and said, "Your order, sir. Enjoy." Her tone was ice cold, professional, but inside, her heart was hammering like it wanted out of her chest. "Eleanor, wait." Raphael stepped forward, one hand outstretched, like he could stop her from leaving with a gesture. She didn't wait. She turned on her heel, heading for the door, but his next words hit her like a punch. "I didn't know you were here. I swear." That stopped her. She spun around, eyes narrowing. "What's that supposed to mean? You think I'd chase you down after all this time?" Her voice cracked, betraying the anger she'd buried for years. He ran a hand through his hair, looking rattled. "No, I mean, I'm here for work. A deal. I didn't expect you." He gestured vaguely at the room like it explained anything. Elena crossed her arms, studying him. He was dressed in a tailored suit, the kind that screamed money. But there was something off. His tie was crooked, his jaw tight, like he was carrying more than just the weight of a long day. "Well, you found me," she said, biting back the bitterness. "Now what?" "I owe you an explanation," he said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" Elena's mind raced. A minute with Rafael Delgado? The guy who'd left her to raise Lucas alone? who'd ignored every call, every letter she'd sent in those early desperate months? She thought of her son, probably sprawled on her sister Sophia's couch right now playing video games, blissfully unaware his dad was standing 10 feet from her. "I've got tables to wait," she snapped, "and I don't owe you a damn thing." She made it to the door this time, hand on the knob, when he called after her, "I'm sorry, Elena, for everything." The words hung there, heavy and raw, and for a stupid, fleeting moment she almost turned back. Almost, but she didn't. She stepped into the hall, letting the door click shut behind her, and leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Her hands were shaking, her apron suddenly too tight around her waist. Rafael Delgado was back in her life, whether she liked it or not, and she had no idea what that meant, for her, for Lucas, or for the storm she could feel brewing just under the surface. Back downstairs, the restaurant noise swallowed her up again. Clinking glasses, laughter, the sizzle of the grill. But her mind was stuck in room 408. Who was he now? Some hotshot CEO, sure, but why was he here? And why did he look so haunted? Elena didn't know it yet, but that night was just the beginning. The past wasn't done with her, and neither was Rafael. Something big was coming, and it was about to turn her quiet little world upside down. So what do you think so far? Stick around, because this is only the start. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear it. Hey, welcome back. If you're just joining, we're in the thick of Elena Torres' wild night at the Ivory Loft, that swanky restaurant inside the Regal Heights Hotel. Last time, Elena, our 32-year-old waitress and single mom, walked into room 498 to serve a VIP and came face-to-face with Rafael Delgado, her college sweetheart, the father of her 10-year-old son Lucas, and the guy who ghosted her a decade ago. Now he's some big-shot CEO, and he's claiming he didn't expect to find her here. Yeah, right. Let's pick up where we left off, because things are about to get messy. Elena stumbled back into the restaurant after that encounter, her head spinning like she'd downed a shot of the top-shelf tequila they kept behind the bar. The dining room was still buzzing, couples laughing over candlelight, a guy in a suit barking into his phone about stocks, but it all felt distant, like she was underwater. She grabbed a tray of dirty glasses from a table, just to keep her hands busy, but her mind was stuck on Rafael, those dark eyes, the way he'd said her name like it still meant something to him. She hated how it stirred up old feelings she'd sworn she'd buried. Back in college, Rafael had been her everything. They'd met sophomore year at a campus coffee shop. He'd spilled his latte trying to flirt with her, and she'd laughed so hard she nearly cried. He was charming, ambitious, always talking about building something big with his family's name. They'd spent nights on the quad staring at the stars, dreaming about a life together. She'd believed every word, until she got pregnant. She was 22, scared out of her mind, and when she told him, his face went blank. "I need time to think," he'd said. Then he was gone. No calls, no texts, just a void where he used to be. She'd had Lucas alone, built a life from scratch, and told herself Rafael Delgado was dead to her. Until tonight. Now here he was, standing in room 408, looking at her like he'd just woken up from a bad dream. "I owe you an explanation," he'd said. Explanation? After 10 years of silence? She wanted to scream at him, demand answers right there, but the restaurant wasn't the place. Plus, she had Lucas to think about, her sweet, goofy kid who loved soccer and dinosaur documentaries. He didn't even know his dad existed. She'd made up vague stories when he asked, said his father was somewhere far away. Now that somewhere was a hotel room upstairs, and it terrified her. She was wiping down a table when Tony, her manager, waved her over. "You okay, Elena? You look like you saw a ghost." She forced a smile. "Just tired, boss, long night." He grunted, not buying it, but let her get back to work. The rest of her shift dragged on, every clink of a fork feeling like a countdown to something she couldn't name. When she finally clocked out at midnight, she grabbed her coat and slipped out the staff exit, hoping to avoid another run-in with Rafael. No such luck. He was there, leaning against the wall in the dimly lit hallway, hands in his pockets, like he'd been waiting. "Elena, please," he said, stepping into her path. "5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." She crossed her arms, the cold night air biting through her thin jacket. "You don't get to ask me for anything, Rafael. You lost that right a long time ago." He flinched, but didn't back off. "I know I did, and I hate myself for it, but I'm not here to mess up your life. I'm here for a deal. Delgado Enterprises is negotiating a sale. I had no idea you worked at this hotel." She studied him. He looked different from the college kid she'd loved. Sharper, more worn. His suit was crisp, but his eyes were tired, and he kept glancing at his phone like it might explode. "A deal, huh? So you're some big CEO now, and I'm just the waitress who pops up to ruin your night?" Her voice was sharp, but it trembled at the edges. Rafael shook his head. "You're not ruining anything. Seeing you, it's a wake-up call. I've owed you the truth for years." "Then, spit it out," she snapped. "Why'd you leave? Why'd you let me go through it all alone?" He took a deep breath, like he'd been rehearsing this. "My father, he ran Delgado Enterprises like a dictator. When you told me about the baby, I wanted to stay, I did. But he found out, said a kid out of wedlock would tank my future, his legacy. He threatened to cut me off, kick me out of the company, leave me with nothing. I was 25, broke and stupid. I caved." Elena's chest tightened. "So you picked money over me, over us?" It wasn't a question. Rafael's jaw clenched. "I picked fear. I told myself you'd be better off without me dragging you into my family's mess. I was wrong, Elena. I've known that every day since." She wanted to believe him. God help her, a tiny part of her did. But the hurt ran too deep. "You don't get to waltz back in and say sorry like it fixes everything. I've got a son who doesn't even know your name." His face crumpled at that, and for a second she saw real pain in his eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed you to know." He pulled out his phone again, frowning at the screen. "Look, I'm not asking you to decide anything tonight. But I'm here for a few days if you ever want to talk." "I don't," she cut him off, stepping past him. "Stay out of my way, Rafael." She made it to the parking lot, her breath fogging in the chilly air, and slid into her beat-up Honda. Her hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She should have felt victorious shutting him down like that, but all she felt was a hollow ache. As she drove home to her sister Sophia's place, where Lucas was probably still up, begging for one more level of his game, she couldn't shake Rafael's words or the way he'd kept checking his phone like something was chasing him. Back at Sophia's cramped apartment, she found Lucas sprawled on the couch, controller in hand, eyes glued to the TV. "Hey, buddy," she said, ruffling his messy hair. "You win yet?" He grinned, all gap-toothed and bright. "Almost. Aunt Sophia said I could stay up till you got home." She glanced at Sophia, who was nursing a cup of tea in the kitchen. "He's a con artist," Sophia teased, but her smile faded when she saw Elena's face. "Rough night?" Elena nodded, dropping her purse. "You have no idea." She tucked Lucas into bed, kissing his forehead as he mumbled about dinosaurs, and then joined Sophia at the table. "Spill," Sophia said, sliding her a mug. Elena sighed. "Rafael's back, showed up at work, says he's sorry, but it's complicated." Sophia's eyes widened. "The Rafael? Lucas's dad, Rafael?" "Yeah," Elena whispered. "And I don't know what to do about it." She didn't sleep much that night, replaying every word Rafael had said. He'd sounded sincere, but sincerity didn't erase 10 years. And that nervous edge he had, what was that about? She had a bad feeling it wasn't just guilt weighing him down. Something bigger was brewing, and whether she liked it or not, she was already caught in it. What do you think's coming next? Stick with me, this is about to get wild. Hey, good to have you back. If you're just catching up, we're following Elena Torres, a 32-year-old waitress at the Ivory Loft in the Regal Heights Hotel. Last night, she ran into Rafael Delgado, her old flame and the dad of her 10-year-old son, Lucas, a guy who ditched her a decade ago and now claims he's sorry. He's some fancy CEO these days in town for a big business deal, but Elena's not buying his apologies. She's got a kid to protect and a life she's fought hard to keep steady. But trust me, steady's about to go out the window. Let's get into it. The next morning, Elena woke up on Sophia's lumpy couch, her neck stiff and her mind a jumbled mess. Lucas was already up, scarfing down cereal and chattering about some new goalie move he'd learned at soccer practice. She smiled, trying to focus on his goofy energy, but Raphael's face kept flashing in her head, those tired eyes, that shaky, "I'm sorry." She'd told Sophia the basics last night, and her sister had been ready to march up to room 408 and give him a piece of her mind. "He doesn't get a free pass just because he's got a suit now," Sophia had said, and Elena agreed. But something about Raphael's nervous vibe stuck with her. What was he hiding? She shook it off, got Lucas ready for school, and headed to drop him at the bus stop. It was a crisp morning, the kind where the air smells like wet leaves and coffee from the corner shop. She hugged Lucas tight, watching him climb onto the bus with his backpack bouncing, and then started her walk to the hotel. Her shift didn't start till noon, but she liked getting there early to sip tea in the break room and dodge Tony's last-minute chaos. Her phone buzzed in her pocket as she crossed the street. Probably Sophia, she thought, fishing it out, but the screen showed an unknown number, and the message made her stop dead on the sidewalk. "Stay away from Rafael Delgado or your son pays the price." Her stomach dropped. The words stared back at her, cold and sharp, like a knife pressed to her throat. Her hands shook as she read it again, then a third time, hoping she'd imagined it. Lucas. Someone knew about Lucas. She spun around, scanning the street. Cars rolling by, a guy walking his dog, a mom pushing a stroller. Nothing looked off, but her skin prickled like she was being watched. She hit call on the number, her pulse hammering, but it went straight to a dead tone. "Who are you?" she typed back, fingers fumbling. No reply. Panic clawed at her chest. She dialed Sophia, pacing now, barely noticing the honk of a car as she stepped off the curb. "Soph, pick up, she muttered. Her sister answered on the third ring, voice groggy. "Elena, what's wrong?" "Check on Lucas," Elena blurted. "Now." "Someone just texted me. They threatened him, said to stay away from Raphael." Sophia gasped. "What?" "Okay, I'm calling the school. Hang on." The line went quiet, and Elena stood there, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline, her breath fogging in the cool air. 5 agonizing minutes later, Sophia called back. "He's fine. School says he's in class, safe and sound. I told them to keep an eye on him, said it was a family thing." "What the hell's going on?" Elena's knees wobbled with relief, but the fear didn't let go. "I don't know," she said, voice trembling. "Raphael showed up last night, and now this? It's gotta be connected." Sophia cursed. "You need to tell him, Elena. If he's dragged you into some mess, he's fixing it." She didn't want to. God, the last thing she wanted was to run back to Rafael Delgado. But Lucas' face, those big brown eyes, that lopsided grin, flashed in her mind, and she knew Sophia was right. She hung up, took a deep breath, and marched to the hotel, her sneakers slapping the pavement harder with every step. The Regal Heights loomed ahead, all glass and gold, looking too pretty for the ugliness she was feeling. She stormed through the staff entrance, past the break room where a couple of cooks waved hello, and straight to the elevator. Room 408, she had to know. When she knocked, Raphael opened the door fast, like he'd been expecting someone. He was in a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair a little messy, like he hadn't slept either. "Elena?" he said, surprised. "What?" She shoved her phone at him, the text still glowing on the screen. "This is what? Read it." His face went pale as he scanned the words, his jaw tightening. "Jesus," he muttered. dragging a hand over his mouth. When did you get this? 10 minutes ago, she snapped. Someone knows about Lucas. Rafael, my son. What did you do? He stepped back, motioning her inside. She hesitated, then followed, the door clicking shut behind her. The room smelled like coffee and his cologne, something woody and expensive that tugged at old memories she didn't want. I didn't do this, he said, pacing now, but I think I know who might have. She crossed her arms. Start talking. He stopped, meeting her eyes. Delgado Enterprises, my company. I'm here to sell off a chunk of it to Vantage Corp. Big money, big stakes. But there's a group of shareholders, old guard types loyal to my dad, who don't want it. They'd do anything to keep control. Elena's head spun. Shareholders? What does that have to do with me? Rafael swallowed hard. They must have dug into my past, found out about you, about us. They're using it to scare me off the deal. Her fists clenched. So your fancy business crap is putting my kid in danger? That's your explanation? He winced. I didn't know they'd go this far. I swear, Elena, I'd never... Save it, she cut him off. I don't care what you meant. Lucas is all that matters. Fix this, Rafael, or I'm calling the cops and letting them sort it out. He nodded, pulling out his phone. I've got people, security. I can put a team on you and Lucas, keep you safe while I figure out who's behind this. She hated the idea. Strangers shadowing her life all because of him, but the text burned in her mind. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. But if anything happens to my son, I'll make you regret ever stepping foot in this hotel. Rafael was already dialing, barking orders to someone named Carlos about discreet protection, 24/7. He looked at her as he hung up. They'll start today. One guy near Sophia's place, one near you. Lucas won't even know they're there. Elena nodded, but her stomach churned. This doesn't mean I trust you, she said, heading for the door. It means I don't have a choice. He didn't argue, just watched her go, guilt written all over his face. Back in the elevator, she leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. Her quiet life, work, Lucas, soccer games, was unraveling, and Rafael was at the center of it. She didn't know who these shareholders were or how far they'd go, but that text wasn't a bluff, it was a promise. And as the doors slid open to the lobby, she made one of her own. Nobody was touching her kid, not Rafael's enemies, not any. She'd fight with everything she had. Things are heating up, right? Stick around. Elena's about to face some serious curveballs. Hey, welcome back. If you're still with me, you know Elena Torres is in deep now. She's a 32-year-old waitress at the Ivory Loft, just trying to keep her life together for her 10-year-old son, Lucas. But ever since Rafael Delgado, her ex, Lucas's dad, and now a big-shot CEO showed up in room 408, everything's gone sideways. Last time, Elena got a creepy text threatening Lucas if she didn't stay away from Rafael, and it turns out his company's messy deal might be to blame. He's got security watching her and Lucas now, but Elena's not feeling safe. She's feeling trapped. Let's see how this mess explodes. The next few days were a blur for Elena. She went through her shifts at the hotel like a zombie, pouring wine and clearing plates with a fake smile plastered on her face. But every time she stepped outside, she was scanning the street, looking for those security guys Rafael promised, or worse, whoever sent that text. She'd spot a dude in a dark jacket lingering near the bus stop and wonder if he was one of Carlos' team or some creep with a grudge. It was exhausting living like that, always on edge. Lucas didn't notice, thank God. He was too busy with school and begging Sophia for extra screen time. But Elena couldn't shake the dread gnawing at her gut. She'd texted Rafael once, short and sharp, "Your guys better be good." He'd replied, "They are, I promise." Promises from him didn't mean much, but she didn't have a choice. Sophia kept her updated too. Lucas was fine, no weirdos lurking near her apartment. Still, Elena couldn't relax. Thursday night rolled around and she was working the dinner rush at the Ivory Loft. The place was packed. Some corporate event had suits swarming the bar, all loud laughs and clinking glasses. She was carrying a tray of martinis when she noticed him, a guy in a gray suit, sitting alone at a corner table, sipping a whiskey and staring right at her. He wasn't one of her tables. She'd have remembered. Mid-40s, slick back hair, eyes like a hawk. He didn't look away when she caught him watching, just took another sip, calm as anything. Her stomach twisted. She ducked into the kitchen, heart pounding, and peeked out through the swinging doors. He was still there, now flipping through a menu like he belonged. "You okay, Elena?" one of the cooks, Miguel, asked, flipping a steak on the grill. "Yeah, just hot in here," she lied, brushing it off. But she wasn't okay. That guy gave her the creeps, and she couldn't shake the feeling he was tied to this whole Rafael mess. She made it through her shift, barely, and clocked out at 11. The gray suit guy was gone by then, but the unease stuck with her. She texted Sophia on her way out. "Everything good with Lucas?" Sophia shot back, "All clear, he's asleep. You?" Elena typed, "Fine," but she wasn't. She stepped into the cool night air, pulling her coat tight when her phone rang. It was Sophia, and her voice was shaking. "Elena, someone just tried the door. I heard scratching, like they were messing with the lock. Lucas is still asleep, but I'm freaking out." Elena's blood ran cold. "Call the cops," she said, already running for the bus stop. "I'm coming now." She dialed Rafael next, her fingers slipping on the screen. He picked up on the second ring. "Elena, what's wrong?" "Someone's trying to break into Sophia's place," she snapped. "Your security's useless." "Lucas is there." He cursed loud enough she flinched. "Stay on the line. I'm sending Carlos over and I'm coming to you." "Where are you?" "Outside the hotel," she said, breathless. "Hurry." 10 minutes later, headlights blinded her as Rafael's sleek black car screeched up. He jumped out, face tight with worry, and grabbed her arm. "Get in. Carlos is at Sophia's already. He says it's clear now, but we're not taking chances." She didn't argue, sliding into the passenger seat. The drive to Sophia's was a blur, Rafael gripping the wheel like he could force the car to go faster. "Cops are there," he said, glancing at her. "No one got in. Lucas is safe." She nodded, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. When they pulled up, Sophia's apartment building was lit up with flashing lights. 2 cop cars sat out front, and Carlos, a stocky guy with a buzz cut, met them at the door. "Perimeter's secure," he said. "Looks like they bolted when Sophia turned on the lights. She's okay, kid's okay." Elena pushed past him, finding Sophia in the living room, pale but steady, and Lucas still snoring on the couch, oblivious. She hugged Sophia tight, then sank down next to her son, brushing his hair back, relief crashing over her like a wave. Rafael stood by the door, talking low with Carlos, then turned to her. "You can't stay here tonight. I've got a room at the hotel. VIP suite, top security. Bring Lucas and Sophia, please." His voice cracked on that last word, and for once, she didn't snap back. She nodded, too tired to fight. They packed quick. Sophia grabbed a bag, Elena scooped up Lucas, still half asleep, and piled into Rafael's car. The hotel felt like a fortress when they got there, Carlos ushering them to a suite on the 12th floor. High ceilings, plush carpet, a view that'd be stunning if Elena wasn't so wrecked. Lucas mumbled something about a cool sleepover and crashed on the giant bed. Sophia took the couch, whispering, "We're okay, sis," before dozing off. Elena couldn't sleep, though. She stood by the window, staring at the city lights when Rafael stepped up beside her. "I'm so sorry," he said, voice rough. "This is my fault." She didn't look at him. "Yeah, it is. But I need the truth, Rafael. All of it. Why are they doing this?" He sighed, leaning against the glass. "It's not just the deal. There's more. 6 months ago, my dad died, left me the company, and a letter said I had to make things right with the woman I hurt most, you. I came here to find you, Elena, not just for the sale. I hired a guy to track you down, discreetly, but those shareholders must have found out. They dug up Lucas, Figured he's leveraged to stop me from selling or to force me into a deal that keeps them in power. Elena turned, stunned. You were looking for me? After all this time? Her voice broke. Why now? Because I'm not the coward I was, he said, meeting her eyes. I wanted to fix it. Us. Lucas. But they're using it against me. Against you? She laughed, bitter and shaky. Fix it? You think you can just show up and play dad now? They tried to break into my sister's house, Rafael. I know, he said, stepping closer. And I'll stop them. I've got proof, emails, recordings of what they're pulling. I'm taking it to the board tomorrow. But tonight, you're safe here, I swear. She wanted to shove him, scream that his promises were worthless, but the fear in her chest wouldn't let her. Instead, she sank onto a chair, burying her face in her hands. Just keep Lucas out of this, she whispered. It's all I care about. He nodded, hovering like he wanted to say more, then backed off. Get some rest. I'll be down the hall if you need me. He left, and the room went quiet, just the hum of the city below. Elena stared at Lucas, sleeping so peacefully, and felt the weight of Rafael's words crash down. He'd come for her, for them. But it didn't erase the past, and now his enemies knew her son's name. Safe or not, she wasn't sure she'd ever feel steady again. Whoa, right? That twist changes everything. Stick with me. Next part's gonna be wild. Hey, good to see you back. We're in the home stretch now with Elena Torres, our 32-year-old waitress who's been dragged into a whirlwind since Rafael Delgado, her ex and the father of her 10-year-old son Lucas, crashed back into her life. Last time things hit the fan, someone tried to break into her sister Sophia's place, forcing Elena, Lucas, and Sophia to hole up in a VIP suite at the Regal Heights Hotel. Then came the bombshell. Rafael wasn't just here for a business deal. He'd been looking for Elena, spurred by his late dad's dying wish. But his company's shady shareholders found out about Lucas and turned him into a pawn to control Rafael. Let's see how this mess wraps up. The suite was dead quiet that night, except for Lucas's soft snores and the occasional creak of Sophia shifting on the couch. Elena couldn't sleep. How could she? She sat by the window staring at the city lights, replaying Rafael's confession over and over. He'd come to find her, to make things right, he said. Part of her wanted to believe him, to see the guy she'd loved back in college, but the bigger part, the mom part, was furious. His big redemption plan had put Lucas in danger, and that wasn't something she could just shrug off. She checked her phone. 3 a.m. No new texts. No word from Rafael or his security guy Carlos. Just silence, thick and heavy. Morning came too fast. Lucas woke up all bright-eyed, bouncing on the bed like it was a vacation. Mom, can we order pancakes? This place is awesome. Sophia shot Elena a look, half amused, half worried, but played along, ruffling his hair. Only if you say pretty please first, kiddo. Elena forced a smile, her chest tight. She wanted to keep him in this bubble, safe and clueless, but reality was knocking. She stepped into the hall, dialing Rafael. He picked up quick. Elena, you okay? Yeah, she said, keeping her voice low. What's the plan? You said you'd fix this today. I'm meeting the board in an hour, he said, sounding tense. Got everything I need. Proof these shareholders hired guys to scare you. Carlos tracked the gray suit creep from the restaurant last night. He's linked to them. We're ending this. She gripped the phone. And Lucas? Me? What happens if they push back? They won't, he said, firm. I've got security doubled up. You stay in the suite till I call. Please. She hated being stuck, but nodded. Fine. Just don't screw this up, Rafael. Back inside, she kept Lucas busy with cartoons and room service. Pancakes with extra syrup, his favorite. Sophia paced, whispering, You trust him to pull this off? Not really, Elena admitted, but he's all we've got right now. The hours crawled by, her nerves fraying with every tick of the clock. Then, around noon, Her phone buzzed. Carlos, Elena, heads up. We've got trouble. 2 guys just tried the service entrance, armed. Hotel security's on it, but Rafael wants you in the safe room downstairs. Now. Her heart stopped. Armed? She grabbed Lucas, who looked up, confused. Mom? We're playing a game, buddy, she said, forcing calm. Quick adventure downstairs. Sophia snatched their bags and they bolted, following Carlos through the hall. It was chaos, staff whispering, a muffled alarm buzzing somewhere. Carlos led them to a back elevator, his hand on a gun at his hip. They're pinned down, he said as the doors shut. Cops are coming. You'll be fine. The safe room was cold and stark. Concrete walls, a metal table, a bank of screens showing security feeds. Lucas clung to her, wide-eyed. Are we in trouble? No, sweetie, she lied, hugging him tight. Just waiting out a silly mix-up. Sophia squeezed her hand, pale but steady. One screen flickered, showing 2 guys in black hoodies cuffed by hotel guards near a loading dock. Elena's stomach churned. Those were the creeps after her kid. Carlos muttered into his earpiece, then nodded. Police have them. Rafael's wrapping up now. Minutes later, the door swung open and Rafael rushed in, tie loose, face flushed with adrenaline. It's over, he said, breathless. They're done. Elena stood, Lucas still glued to her side. What happened? The board saw everything, he said. Emails, payments, even a recording of one of them bragging about handling me. They're out, arrested or fired. The deal's mine now, on my terms. He crouched down, looking at Lucas, then back at her. No one's touching you again, I swear. She stared at him, anger and relief crashing together. You swear? Like that means something after all this? Her voice shook. They came for my son, Rafael. Because of you. He flinched, standing slow. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, to him, if you let me. I should have fought for you back then. I didn't. But I'm fighting now. His eyes were raw, pleading, and for the first time she saw more than guilt. She saw a guy who'd faced down his own mistakes. Lucas tugged her sleeve. Mom, who's he? She froze, the question she'd dodged for years staring her down. Rafael waited, holding his breath. He's someone I used to know, she said finally, soft. We'll talk about it later, okay? Lucas nodded, still curious, but let it go. Sophia broke the silence. So we're safe? For real? Yeah, Rafael said. Cops have the guys and the company's clean now. You can go home. Or stay if you want. Whatever you need. And they didn't stay. Elena wanted out of that hotel, away from the fancy suites and the echoes of danger. Back at Sophia's, she unpacked while Lucas kicked a soccer ball in the yard. Rafael texted, I'm here if you need me, anytime. She didn't reply, not yet. That night, she sat Lucas down. You asked about that guy. He's your dad. He's been gone a long time, but he wants to know you. What do you think? Lucas blinked, processing. Is he nice? He's trying to be, she said. We'll see. A week later, she took Lucas to the park. Rafael showed up, nervous as hell, carrying a soccer ball. Thought we could kick it around, he said. Lucas grinned, running off with it, and Rafael looked at her. Thank you, Elena. Don't thank me yet, she said, arms crossed. You've got a lot to prove. He nodded, chasing after Lucas, and she watched, a tiny crack opening in the wall she'd built. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. What a ride, huh? Stick around for the wrap-up next time. It's gonna tie it all together. Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for sticking with me. So, Elena Torres, our tough-as-nails waitress, just went through hell and back. From that jaw-dropping moment in room 48 where she locked eyes with Rafael Delgado, her old love, and Lucas's long-lost dad, to dodging creepy shareholders and hiding out in a hotel safe room, it's been a wild ride. She started this story just trying to keep her head down, pouring drinks at the ivory loft to give her 10-year-old son a good life. Then Rafael crashed in, dragging up a decade of hurt and a whole mess of danger with him. But here's the thing, Elena didn't just survive it, she came out stronger. She faced down threats to Lucas, stared Rafael in the eye and demanded he step up, and somehow found the guts to let him kick a soccer ball with their kid in the park. That's not a fairy tale ending, not by a long shot. She's still wary, still guarding her heart, and Lucas's too. But there's a crack of hope there, a chance for something new. Maybe even healing. Rafael's got a mountain to climb to earn her trust, and who knows if he'll make it. That's life, right? Messy, complicated, and full of what-ifs. So, what do you think? Should Elena give Rafael a real shot, or keep him at arm's length? Drop a comment, I want to hear your take. And if this story got your heart racing, hit that subscribe button. I've got more tales like this coming your way. Love, drama, twists, the works. Tell me where you're watching from too. I'd love to know. Till next time, take care.